It is Tuesday, March 25th, and we have some big news from the Supreme Court about these federal judges issuing nationwide injunctions, how these activist judges have been grinding Trump's agenda to a halt. Well, the Supreme Court may be about to step in. We're going to show you also the latest presidential polling has dropped. Each week, new polling's conducted, and corporate media's narrative about Trump being so unpopular couldn't be further from the truth. His approval rating jumping again. And what really happened with this Signal group chat story? Was it really random coincidence? The story drops one day before Radcliffe and Tulsi have to sit before the SSCI. I don't think so. This is an active op taking place, folks, and more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So Trump's been in office for 65 days. Today is day 65, moving at a breakneck pace, moving so fast, doing so much that papers like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times are keeping running trackers called Trump trackers to keep up with everything the administration's done, showing you each action and the status or the stage of said action, if it's completed, if it's in process, stalled, etc., knocking off one promise after the next. But look, Trump's only one man. He can make the order, but his cabinet needs to execute it, get it accomplished, which they're trying to do. The hurdle that we're facing isn't Trump's cabinet getting in the way like we saw during Trump 1.0. Instead, it's real-time judicial activism. Outside law firms, the big three, that's what they're called, three of the largest DC law firms acting as operatives for the DNC and establishment Washington, who are working, by the way, with select activist judges to stall a lot of this out. We've been witnessing that in real time. Last week with Judge Boasberg, who halted Trump's mass deportation agenda, ordered the planes grounded who were shipping out illegal gang members. One single federal judge able to invoke nationwide injunctions, grinding U.S. policy to a halt. That's what we're seeing here. Look at this Trump tracker. Each of these actions Trump's making, the ones that say in process and stalled, largely being delayed by this judicial activism. Rogue federal judges working with these Dem-funded law firms. And if you don't believe me, here's activist attorney Norman Eisen. He's the tip of the Dems' legal spear right now. This is the same guy who helped them impeach Trump during his first term. Watch him last night on CNN admitting to working with these judges, that the judges are on his team, he said, explaining his strategy. Listen to this. You can't make it up. Watch.
You're involved in litigation, as you said, against the administration. The president signaled you out by name Friday night in order revoking any security clearance you may have. What do you make of his claim today that law firms need to, quote, behave?
Anderson, he's losing in court. There have been almost 24 cases that my organization, the State Democracy Defenders Fund, has filed or worked on. We won an order protecting 6,000 FBI agents from targeting because they worked on January 6th. We got another one locking Elon Musk out of the Treasury Department. 20,000 wrongly fired federal government employees.
Hey, Norm,
we
were
were
you
part
scared
of a
at all?
team protecting them. I see it as Donald Trump being the one who's lashing out, Anderson, because he's losing. And let's not forget that Paul Weiss bent the knee, kissed the ring, crawled on their belly, but Covington and Burling got an action. They got an EO. They did not bow down. Perkins Coie, they went to court.
Yeah.
They got Williams and Connolly, one of the best firms in the country. They won court protections. And Anderson, I can tell you this. This is the third time Donald Trump has revoked my security clearance. I think he turns it back on so he can take it away again because he's so angry. But you know what? I won't back down no matter what. I'll just file even more lawsuits.
The Trump administration purposely used the Alien Enemies Act, purposely let that plane continue after the judge said to turn it around and ground it, because they want to push this lawsuit to the Supreme Court. They want the Supreme Court to weigh in here and put a stop to this. Democrats and the media have been saying for weeks that this is how democracy works, this is how our system is supposed to work. No, this is a loophole that these activists are exploiting for political purposes. Well, these cases, they are working their way to the Supreme Court, and yesterday we got some insight into how the court may rule on this. Supreme Justice Kagan, an Obama appointee, an Obama Supreme Court justice, one of the 4 liberal justices on the court. Listen to what she has to say about this. Watch.
You know, in recent years, some district courts have issued nationwide injunctions, and this happened in the Trump administration, and it has also happened in the Biden administration. So this has no political tilt to it. But some district courts have, very quickly issued nationwide injunctions to stop a policy in its tracks. That something that the president and or Congress has determined to be the national policy, and it just one district court stops it. And then you combine that with the ability of people to forum shop, to go to a particular district court where they think that that will be the result. And you look at something like that and you think, well, that can't be right, that one district court, whether it's in the Trump years, people used to go to the Northern District of California, and in the Biden years, they go to Texas. And it just can't be right that one district judge can stop a nationwide policy in its tracks and leave it stopped for the years that it takes to go through normal process.
And if Kagan feels that way, I can only imagine what the conservative justices feel about this. In another story, CNN getting a dose of reality this morning as their data reporter, Harry Enton, breaks down the latest presidential polling numbers. It turns out the narrative CNN and the media have been spinning about how unpopular Trump is, how the American people are turning against the Trump administration and his policy agenda, turns out it couldn't be further from the truth. Watch.
I think sometimes it's important to do a little bit of reality check and take a little different spin at the numbers. I'm going to do that right here because all we talk about is how unpopular Donald Trump is. But in reality, he's basically more popular than he was at any point in term number 1 and more popular than he was when he won election back in November of 2024. What are we talking about? His net favorable rating right now comes in at -4 points. Compare that to where he was when he won in November of 2024 when he was at -7 points, or March of 2017 when he was at -10 points. So when you compare Trump against himself, he's actually closer to the apex than he is to the bottom of the trough. And of course, that's so important because Donald Trump, historically speaking, has had his numbers underestimated. So I think it's very important to compare him to himself to understand he's actually more popular now than he was when he won, or certainly where he was at this point back in his first term. The bottom line is Trump is more towards the ceiling than he is towards the floor.
So when you do that, it makes my knees hurt. So when you look at this compared to sort of historically, what does it tell you about the percentage of folks that think the country itself, with him at the helm, is on the right track?
This, I think, is rather important because, again, if the polls have historically underestimated Donald Trump, what is a metric that might get at understanding at how popular he may actually be? So let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Marist, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Marist has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for re-election, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is re-elected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country was on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track.
Trump now has sky-high approval ratings, higher approval than he did during his whole first term. He's sitting at the apex of popularity for his second term. And the right track, wrong track numbers, I mean, that's more of an apolitical question, not focused so much on the president specifically. So respondents tend to answer more honestly. And in a matter of just 2 months, from January 2025, when Biden left office, to last week, March 20th, we've seen the largest 2-month jump in history in the country's sentiment about the direction of this country. 2 months ago, only 27% of the country thought we were headed in the right direction. Today, it's over 45% on average, averaging the polls, 45%. Some polls like Emerson have it as high as 50%. 50%'s wild. We haven't seen 50% in 50 years. And I have to agree, under Trump, I too believe we're finally headed in the right direction. We're tackling our national debt, shrinking the federal government, bringing back free speech. That's a big one. Free speech in America. No more canceling people. Bringing back our manufacturing base. No longer allowing these sleazy politicians to sell out our country, shipping our jobs overseas, putting America first for once. In another story, CIA Director John Radcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard are both being grilled before the SSCI this morning, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. This is one of the most powerful committees in Congress after one of the most partisan reporters in D.C., a guy named Jeffrey Goldberg, who works for The Atlantic, was allegedly sent a link to join a Signal group chat with top cabinet officials about striking Yemen. This is all the media has been talking about since yesterday, running headlines that Trump administration officials were texting classified war plans to a journalist. Watch this.
This just in, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, says he was accidentally texted war plans.
Yeah, we literally just received this piece from The Atlantic, and in it, Goldberg writes, U.S. national security leaders included me in a group chat about upcoming military strikes in Yemen. I didn't think it could be real. Then the bombs started falling.
But let me correct the record. Nothing was sent through text message. They used Signal, which is an authorized communications app at CIA. And this guy, Jeffrey Goldberg, isn't a journalist. This is The Atlantic, the mouthpiece for the deep state, the reporter who was behind the Suckers and Losers hoax, multiple other Trump hoaxes during his first term. This is a coordinated attack, folks. That's how these things happen. This is an active op against the Trump administration. We saw them do this over and over again during Trump 1.0, but this is the first time I've seen it during Trump's second term. This wasn't a random link. Think about it. They planned the release of this story one day before Tulsi and Radcliffe were scheduled to sit before the SSCI. They're trying to turn cabinet officials against each other. Watch some of what happened at this hearing this morning. Watch this.
Your question was, have I participated in any other group chats sharing classified information? To be clear, I haven't participated in any Signal group messaging that relates to any classified information at all.
Okay. Director Gabbard?
Senator, I have the same answer. I have not participated in any Signal group chat or any other chat on another app that contained any classified information.
We've got more members to cross.
They testified, is my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's no intelligence community classified information. Is that correct?
That's
Director
correct.
Ratcliffe, is that correct? Director Gabbard?
Yes, Chairman.
Well, again.
That's not correct. She said repeatedly there's nothing classified. Period.
Right. Period. You can't have it both. And again, we'll see. I cannot believe this is not going to come out. And if it's not classified, again, we'd ask you to give it to the public today. I'm sure one of your aides back there have probably got it on paper. If you got it here, it's not classified, stand by your position. Or is this just one more example of a careless approach to how we keep our secrets in this administration?
In another story, Trump's trade and tariff policy is working. Hyundai announcing yesterday a $20 billion investment in the U.S. This includes $5.8 billion for a new steel plant in Louisiana. Watch.
South Korean auto giant Hyundai will announce a $20 billion investment in the United States when its chairman visits the White House today. Sources say that pledge includes $5 billion set for a steel plant in Louisiana with plans to hire 1,500 employees and produce next-generation steel for Hyundai and Kia cars. That move comes after similar investment commitments from SoftBank and chipmaker Taiwan Semiconductor earlier this year.
Trump is bringing back the U.S. manufacturing base. It's his number one policy objective. That and immigration. Fix the mess, the offshoring of American jobs that we've seen over the last 40 years, and it's working. We've seen over $1 trillion in promised new investment back to the U.S. over the last 60 days, all focused around onshoring U.S. manufacturing, well over $1 trillion. Apple announcing $500 billion to expand manufacturing, relocate their manufacturing plants back to the States. NVIDIA announcing over $200 billion, $27 billion from Eli Lilly to start manufacturing drugs in the U.S. J&J, again, planning $55 billion investment, announcing it yesterday to expand U.S. manufacturing, relocate it back to the States, and so many other companies. All of this happening for one reason: tariffs. All right, that wraps up the news portion of this video. Now let me tell you about the sponsor for today, Surfair Mobility. You can see their ticker on the screen, a regional air travel company in the U.S. They offer an air mobility platform. They have an agreement with Palantir, by the way, to power their software operating system, who is an investor as well in the company. And I heard about this company a while ago. The way someone explained it to me, think about it as Uber for air travel, which really caught my attention, right? Now, they have two main parts to their business, the air mobility side and the air technology side. The latter, personally, I really find interesting. Regional air mobility as an industry, RAM as it's called, I believe will be taking off over the next few years. I have friends now, today, who swear by traveling this way instead of commercial. It focuses on connecting regions beyond urban areas, using air travel to transport passengers and goods over smaller distances with smaller aircraft. So instead of flying commercial, dealing with the craziness of traditional airports and airport security, long-term parking, etc., RAM utilizes mostly smaller regional airports and aircraft with around 5 to 50 passenger capacities. Look at how cool this is. You go to their site or their app, wherever you are, choose the type of aircraft you want to fly in, choose your one-way or round-trip itinerary. For example, if I'm flying out of Sandpoint, Idaho airport, it pops up with which private aircraft categories are available. You could choose the plane you want to hop on. I'll choose a very light jet like a Honda jet, and you're off. I just find the industry very interesting. Although they are not yet profitable, just their Hawaii market alone through their sub-brand, Makalule Airlines, generated around $23 million in revenue in the trailing 12 months ending September 30th of last year, 35,000 plus scheduled departures and 245,000 plus passengers, again, just through their Hawaii network. From their mainland nationwide scheduled flights, they generated around $91 million in revenues, 370,000 plus passengers flown, and around 72,000 scheduled departures in that same time period. Bottom line, it's not a small industry. In fact, McKinsey & Co. released a report saying they're estimating the regional air mobility industry will grow to between $75 billion to $115 billion by 2035 and between $15 to $22 billion in the U.S. alone by 2035. It's why Palantir are powering their core platform, the Surf OS software operating system. And for those who aren't aware, Palantir, it's a $200 billion giant. So that is a very large player backing Surfair. On their website, a quote from NASA says, regional air mobility will fundamentally change how we travel and receive our goods by bringing the convenience, speed, and safety of air travel to all. Again, this is a newer company, a small cap company. Their total market cap today is only around $63 million. They just released last quarter and full year 2024 earnings. Full year 2024 revenue of around $119.4 million, rising 6% compared to $112.9 million pro forma revenue from the prior year. Deanna White, Surfair's CEO and COO, said in a release that during 2024, we designed and implemented a 4-phase transformation plan, a strategic plan to achieve a profitable growth. We will measure our success based on our execution of our transformation plan. The first phase, transformation, has been completed. The entire organization is now laser focused on the optimization phase, with the goal of reaching profitability in our airline operations in 2025. So again, personally, I find this company super interesting. I find the industry very interesting, and in my opinion, it's definitely a research opportunity. Investing in small cap companies does carry significant risk. Always make sure to do your own research before making any decisions. I'm not a financial advisor. Once again, they are on the New York Stock Exchange under ticker symbol SRFM. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.